Hello, everyone. Today I'm looking at Anthology of the Killer. This this is a very silly, quirky, weird game. Really, like actually weird game. The tone, the style, the setting, everything. What really drew my attention to it, of course, was the main character design, BB, and the fact that there seemed to be a niche following around this character. So I really wanted to kind of immerse myself in that and find out what it was about. And so it's out of all the PC indie games I've played, it is really strange. In the sense that when you actually launch the Anthology game, it essentially is it's a series of not mini games, but smaller games that are essentially arranged in this hotel-like format. And so you go from room to room to play each game that the creator made over, roughly a decade or something. And so again, I love the style of the character. She's kind of done in a crayon, very crude, two-frame kind of movement. And so the way the game actually works, it is basically a visual novel, but you do have to walk through the environments, and you have to watch out for these giant green eyeballs that are kind of your checkpoints, and they trigger the next piece of dialogue. What's very interesting or strange about this game is that when you have dialogue on screen, it pops up and then it just never goes away. It just stays there until the next dialogue. So I guess that saves the time to actually program a button to acknowledge a message and get rid of it. It just goes to the next thing and it'll just stay there until whenever. Again, what I love about BB is that she's always super nervous. She always has, all these kinds of expressions. In fact, like she just has a giant eyeball, and the other eye is covered by her hair. It's just a really nice design and very quirky and silly and really lovable and charming. And so the story of BB's adventures is that there are 7 or 8 episodes that range from things like Hands of the Killer, Eyes of the Killer, Drool of the Killer. And so each time she goes on this little adventure where, again, it's a very weird storytelling where I'll be honest, like a lot of it kind of I feel goes over my head, or it's very disjointed, but I don't really care because I'm just here for the experience. And so essentially what happens is BB will go on different adventures. She's writing for her sort of Zine, her local Zine. So she's a journalist basically collecting stories, and she gets wrapped up in these crazy situations where there's some kind of serial killer involved or some kind of murderer, and you always have to end up running away from them or being chased. So the joke is that BB is a future murder victim because she keeps getting herself into situations where serial killers are just present and chasing her down. And so it's kind of a silly slash humorous, but also serious experience. And again, a lot of that is done through the dialogue, the environments. Again, you walk through them. She has like so many different costumes per episode. It's really charming. It feels almost like Lego Star Wars with all the variety that they have. And there's even like a bonus room you get at the end of the game, which gives you access to all of them that you can just try. And again, so the other aspect of gameplay in here is that the killers themselves, there'll be certain chase sequences, and it's kind of funny or counterintuitive. I'm not exactly sure what the design is, but it seems to me that you actually do want to get caught by the killers because there's no real penalty. It never sends you back, but it's like you do kind of feel initially you should run away from them, but there's never a game over screen in this game. So if you're ever caught, it actually goes to the next scene. So you are sort of kind of supposed to get caught by them. I'm not sure if you miss out on extra scenes or not, but it seems to be the case that usually when you are caught, it is intentional and you don't feel like, oh, I missed something or I lost something. That's how it was supposed to be. And, the first episode is maybe 5 to 10 minutes in length. So I thought, oh, I'm supposed to replay this a bunch of different times and get different endings and, then find out, the real ending. But no, it's actually very linear and it's really not that complicated. Again, I really love the hyper, well, not always, but the kind of realistic backgrounds and the very quirky, anxiety-ridden main character. I think she has a lot of appeal because she always looks nervous and socially awkward, and kind of has that Kuroki Tomoko kind of vibe about her. I think that's why people really really like her, and why I like her as a character as well. And she just gets into these goofy situations again. Again, there's a lot of very strange, reoccurring characters, a lot of anthropomorphic characters. It's very interestingly how this feels like a Japanese style game, but all the language and culture is very American. It references certain singers and bands and pop stars and cultural things, and there's even some political talk a little bit here and there that honestly just kind of caught me off guard. Like, oh, cool, I didn't know we were doing this, but it never really goes too deep into any kind of one concept. It's really here for the entertainment and writing of the character. Again, I as much as I like the stories and little events in this game, at the same time, I don't really love them because they seem seemingly random. There is no real line that kind of pulls through and ties everything together. These really do feel like a bunch of random events, and the art style and the kind of characters and the dialogue pulls that through those events. But at the same token, I just like overall, after beating the whole thing, I just really don't care, I guess. I don't know how to say it. It's just like, oh, that was cool, but there wasn't like a moral to the story or like an overarching message. It was just like, okay, well, that just happened, I guess. LOL. And I guess that's fine itself in its own kind of random, hectic kind of way. There's also different things that you can see the dev tries to play around with. Like in certain episodes, you'll have like a character select where there's multiple character stories. There's another one where it goes FPS for a little while. There's another one where you actually have to play a platformer. So it's really fun actually that way, where you have these little moments in each episode where it changes things up a bit. But overall, the episodes are pretty much exactly the same. Also, the soundtrack is pretty recycled, used over and over quite a bit, but it is still pretty enjoyable. It gives it the right kind of tone I think it's going for. There's also very crude, looping animations and looping sound effects sometimes during cutscenes. I think the best villain in this game, in terms of design, are probably the two maids, Handy and Mandy. They just kind of really stood out the most, I think. And also the Weepster was kind of fun, honestly. When there's also a line where he's like, oh, I'm going to become a Vocaloid and have a career change. And what else was something funny that they said? Oh yeah, apparently her older sister Zizi is a giant Toho fan, and she's this computer nerd. And I think the funniest arc, honestly, of the entire game is when she gets hired as like a website designer by this like doomsday cult, and she's helping them redesign their website and makes it all Web 2.0 from Web 1.0. And honestly, ZZ's arc is probably the funnier part of the whole series. I really enjoyed it. Again, I also just really enjoy how the characters move through the environment, how they feel very derpy, anxiety-ridden doodles in the slightly more realistic world. There's a trope, later on where you actually go to a hyper-realistic background setting world, and and BB makes a comment like, oh, this is a really abstract place. So yeah, it's nothing. It's like people say this game is like horror comedy. The comedy isn't haha. I mean, sometimes it is genuinely funny, but it's more so just genuinely quirky and interesting and just very of its own nature, if that makes any sense. But yeah, it was an interesting experience, but overall, I wasn't really wowed by this game. I wish I had maybe better writing, or maybe a better overarching story, or maybe better music, or something, because games that remind me of this are games like Faith. Faith, even it's a very short game, using friggin' 8-bit pixels. It was still able to give a pretty intense vibe, but overall didn't really pay off with the really nice gameplay elements. This is kind of the opposite, where the gameplay elements I actually really enjoy. I really enjoy walking through each environment while reading the dialogue. It's very simple but very effective. Um, but I feel like the story and the tone of the whole thing didn't really. I felt it didn't really pay off what like there wasn't a distinct vision that I feel was going that was in direction here. It's kind of feels like appropriately a bunch of episodic series that were slowly developing a kind of series of ideas, but there wasn't. I felt like the developer didn't. There wasn't something that they needed to say, something that they were really striving to express with their art and their medium. And so that's why, even though at the end of the day, why I really love this format of game, I would love to play other games like this or other visual novels like this. I didn't really connect with it as maybe other people might have. What this also reminds me of, I guess, more accurately in terms of my experience, is actually Wada no Hara, where it's again that was a game that actually was made in RPG Maker, and this game also was prototyped in RPG Maker and has eventually evolved to, I guess, whatever engine this is running on. And Wada no Hara is very similar in the sense that I love the character designs, I love kind of the setting and the theme and everything, but I really hated actually playing the game, or I really hated just the dialogue from a lot of the characters. It just never felt like it really justified the experience, I guess. I don't know. I was just all very, I don't know, kind of, like a very solid 6 or 7 out of 10 experience. I would say that this game is better than Wada no Hara, because it is like shorter and more concise, and I really enjoy that. I was able to beat it in like a day, more or less. But I really enjoy the storytelling, the animation, everything, and I love how that when you have to quit out, you go back to the hotel. It's really nice. It's comfy. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about this game. It was an interesting experience, and I'd like to see other games, I guess, copy this style or this format of kind of a walkable visual novel. And I enjoyed it, but not as much as I think I wanted to. That's kind of what I have to leave it off. Anyway, check this game out if you guys want. The first level is pretty short and gives you an idea of what the rest of the game is like. And you know what? It did keep me going till I got to the end of the game, so I think that was, pretty decent. And yeah, that's it. I'll see you guys later. Bye.